Amazon Web Services will be no stranger to all of you. And today we're so delighted to have our very own head of Web3 APAC, Amazon Web Services, the lady in charge, will be telling us more about AWS role of cloud in empowering Web3 builders. Let's welcome Stacey Ann Pearson. Everybody, let's give her a round of applause, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, all right, no response crowd today. That's all right. I can talk to myself all day. So super happy to be here. Very excited to have our AWS team. Have a wave at the back, guys. So the first thing I want to say is, if there's anything I talk about that you want to learn more about, we have a booth at the back, so go out and check us out. We have some great programs to support your startup, you as a founder, and you as a builder. So today I'm going to be talking about how AWS is helping to support Web3 builders with our underlying infrastructure and underlying services. So you might be wondering, okay, so why is this person qualified to talk about Web3? So I've been working in Web3 startups for the past couple of years. So I used to work in decentralized identity, metaverses, blockchain infrastructure across all different kinds of countries. And so now I'm working with AWS to help support Web3 startups to scale and grow. So if you have any questions about functions, programs, initiatives that we have, feel free to reach out. So today I'm going to talk about, very quickly, obviously we have a lot of folks who know about Web3 already. What's the evolution? We'll run right through that. Sort of what's our role? I get that question a lot. What is AWS's mission? How can AWS support Web3? What does that even mean for big tech to be in Web3? The support that we provide for Web3 startups across Asia Pacific and Japan. And then who are the customers that we're working with? We're quite passionate about the fact that we, as AWS, is a tool to help empower our startups, so we like to put our startups out at the front. So obviously every Web3 company, founder everywhere has its own vision of what is Web3, very simply, just the next phase of the internet. But what does that mean, right? So obviously we could only read, then we read write, then we read write own. We don't have to go through that because I know everyone here is an expert on that. So just an example of what we support. AWS supports every single layer of the ecosystem, from layer 1 all the way up to dApps across DeFi, NFTs, metaverses, SocialFi, everything that you can think of, AWS is looking to support. I don't think this screen wants to load the people that we see in the space. But essentially, we're looking at, okay, what are some of the Web3 companies that are here? We do see a lot of Web3 native companies that are operating in this space. You can see on the examples, we see exchanges, infrastructure, we see NFT and GameFi. That one obviously had a huge pop-off in 2020, 2021. DeFi and CeFi, so decentralized finance, centralized finance, as well as developer tools and metaverses. I think one thing that's really interesting is what that looks like from a non-Web3 company investing and exploring Web3. So what does that mean? So if you think about big brands in sports, media, technology, who are looking to invest in the space, a lot of those folks come to AWS as their infrastructure partner and say, hey, who should we be working with in Web3? And that's where AWS plays the role of facilitator to help support its Web3 startup ecosystem. So part of my role every day is to look at what are these opportunities that we're seeing out in the Web2 space that we can help to pass on to our Web3 partners. Really sad you guys couldn't see those. All right, so what is AWS doing in Web3? This question, by far, is one of my favorites, and it's the one I get the most often. So very simply, AWS's mission for Web3 is essentially to give builders the tools to redefine the internet. So we'll go through what that means. We'll also go through what are some of the use cases that we see for Web3 so that we don't only say it, right? We're actually living it every single day. So let's just start off with what are the 4 key ways that AWS helps to support the Web3 ecosystem. So the first way we talk about is the go-to-market support. The second way we talk about is what is that visibility? How can we get your project, your startup out into the broader ecosystem, not just across Asia, but globally? How can we help to support your infrastructure, your build? How can we ensure that you can scale with security and compliance? And then one thing that's not listed here, but I'll share with you guys because I like you guys, is how do we help your Web3 startup to get that visibility with Web3 native VCs? How can we help to facilitate extending that liquidity runway, especially during this current market? So within building go-to-market and partnerships, right, we do focus on several aspects, including expansion to other regions, as well as expansion into more traditional Web 2 industries. On the second piece, obviously, AWS is known for its infrastructure. We have over 200 services that we can help you to utilize to make your platform, your solution, scalable, faster, and more secure. So obviously the last piece, if you're talking through or if you're thinking about how do I get into the Web3 investing ecosystem, feel free to reach out to myself, feel free to reach out to the team. That's something that we are passionate about, ensuring that we're getting support for the Web3 startups. All right, so then you might be asking, so what exactly does that look like? So I'll give you a moment to take a look. So this is how we structure what is that support that we can give to our Web3 startups. So obviously, a lot of folks know AWS for the core infrastructures around storage and compute. We also do have services that we focus on for security and compliance. And then down at the bottom, you see that Amazon also is supporting the ecosystem through Amazon Managed Blockchain. So with these services, I just want to emphasize that for AWS, we do work with our Web3 partners. So we also have an ecosystem of Web3 infrastructure partners, developer tooling partners, where if a customer comes to AWS to say, we'd love help to build this, we will ensure that our ecosystem of Web3 partners are part of that facilitated workload. So again, if you have a solution that is good for the industry, feel free to work with AWS. We can become that partner with you and your service expansion. All right, so as I mentioned, I just want to focus on what is that contribution back to the Web3 community, right? So we do have our startup and founder programs where we help the founders as well as the startups through their journey from ideation to founding to scaling, as well as the partner and investor facilitation, right? We love passionate founders, but we want our founders and startups to grow into large scalable companies, and you do need runway for that to happen. We do have in-house expertise from business, go-to-market, sales. How do you get, ideation? How do you structure your deals? We help out with all of that, given the global support that AWS has. Obviously, security, compliance, and training, certifications. Whenever you're looking for your startup to expand into Europe or expand into the US, we receive a lot of inbound requests from Web3 customers to help support with, okay, what certifications can I do through AWS in order to meet the regulations, in order to meet the guidelines that are in some of these other regions. So just sharing some of the names that AWS is working with. So as I mentioned, we do support the entire ecosystem all the way from the first layer all the way up. These are just some of our customers that are referenceable. If you think about how AWS is helping to support the space, we want to ensure that we're putting the Web3 builders first, Web3 startups first, and anything that doesn't put towards your front-end customers, we want to ensure that we make that faster, easier, and more scalable. So then, the next question we always receive is, tell me the examples. We don't want to hear, the talk. What's the walk that you're doing? So let's go through maybe some of the use cases that we see that customers are building with AWS. So maybe some of you might know 1inch. Yes, I see some heads nodding. That's good. So we know 1inch, long-time player in the space, DEX aggregator, really fun, saves a lot of money if you are trading in the space, right? So obviously, it's a DEX aggregator, decentralized exchange aggregator. That just means that, you know, when you're looking for the best prices, instead of having to go across one exchange, you can get all of your price comparisons into one location. So 1inch works, or we work with AWS, and through the working with AWS, they were able to reduce their cloud expenditure and their costs by 30%. Using one of our services called Graviton 3. If you'd like to learn more about, okay, what does that do and how does that help, talk to our team, come visit us at the booth. Everybody got a picture of this one already? Yes, I see some heads nodding. All right. What's the second one? So maybe some of you know Ava Labs, so the team behind the Avalanche network, right? So if you see this, right, AWS, we're working with Ava Labs, to help build out the blockchain-based applications. So we do work with a lot of layer 1 networks where they are looking to build out and expand the utility of their network. And that's what AWS can help with, given we have, you know, one of the largest developer ecosystems in the world. Just want to make sure I see the phones down before moving on. Obviously, everyone knows this name. I don't even have to ask, right? So one of the bigger names in North America side exchanges. So we do get some questions about, okay, how can I use machine learning? How can I use AI within my ecosystem? So we wanted to show an example of how a big player like Coinbase is using machine learning and incorporating it into their everyday workload. So this example is around ID authentication, so fraud detection. How do you ensure that you're protecting your customers, protecting your users, especially in this environment where regulations are getting stricter and hacks are getting faster? All right. So ChainStack, so I think some of you may know ChainStack. So they're the infrastructure dev tooling player that is here in Singapore, across Asia, and working their way across Europe. So we also work with ChainStack as a partner. So in other words, if you're looking for nodes as a service, if you're looking for tooling layers that you don't want to do yourself as a Web3 startup, then you can work with ChainStack. We also work with ChainStack as a partner. So if you want to purchase ChainStack solutions and you're already a customer of AWS, you can go through us to work with ChainStack. So they're part of our partner network. If you have a solution that you think would be good also for other AWS customers, other Web3 customers, you can also talk to us about how do you become part of the AWS partner network. So this is another example of a name that I don't have to ask if you know about it after they purchased the rights of the big theater in the US. So Crypto.com, we work with them on their security and scalability. As you're growing your project, we want to believe that your project will grow beyond just your starting country. And in order to do that, you need to be able to scale, and you need to be able to protect yourselves and your customers against hacks from any aspect. So this one is actually an interesting one because this is a Web3 data platform. So maybe some of you may know Amber Data. So Amber Data is using some of the AWS services around how do you analyze on-chain and off-chain data in a way that is useful to your customers. So I know many of you know that there is so much data that exists in the Web3 ecosystem. And if you're your CTO or you're the tech person for your startup, then you know how cumbersome it is to organize the data in a way that is useful, not just for yourselves, but also for your customers. So if you have this that you're working with or that you're struggling with, then feel free to reach out to AWS. This is something that we have solutions for in how to organize, how to leverage, and how to best utilize the data that is living on-chain and off-chain. CoinHacko. So obviously, if you're here in Singapore, you know about the CoinHacko ecosystem. I think this one is a simpler use case, but just to show sort of the depth, right? So we work with layer ones, we work with scaling layers, we work with exchanges, dApps, developer tools, etc. And the last example here is ADDX, just giving an example of how AWS is working even within the Web 2.5 space, right? So we have players who they have customers who are within the Web 3 space, but they're using primarily a Web 2 tech, or they're using primarily Web 3 tech and supporting Web 2 players. All right, so what are the solutions then that AWS has specifically for Web3? So I just spoke about what are some of the underlying core compute and storage. Well, what about actual Web3 solutions? Yep, got the pictures? All right, so the first one, as I mentioned, or as you saw in the first one, hosting a blockchain node. So at AWS, we work backwards from our customers. So anything we built is something that a large group of customers asked us for. This was one of them. So we had customers come to us and say, look, hosting nodes is painful. We don't want to do it. Can you help us do this? So we came up with this hosting a blockchain node service. Right now we have Ethereum, test and mainnet, as well as Bitcoin. For anything that we don't have, what we do is we utilize our AWS partner network, so our nodes as a service partners, to offer this solution. Then you have the securing blockchain key management. Obviously, everyone knows how important it is to protect your keys, right? Not your keys, not your crypto. And so through AWS, right, we have a solution, Nitrous Enclaves, that we work with our customers to help secure their own ecosystem as well as their customers' ecosystem and keys. So this piece is essentially talking about how do you scale your blockchain application, right? So a lot of us know about, okay, so when I'm first starting out, maybe I'll build something on-premise, but once I need to scale, I need to go serverless. You know, we want to ensure that you know that AWS is ready to be that number one choice for you when you're looking to do that serverless infrastructure. So as I mentioned, the large volumes, right? There's so much volume of data in Web3. This is one of our most sought after solutions in terms of how do you manage this amount of data. This one is talking about, okay, if I have a new blockchain that I'm trying to promote, can I do this through AWS? So we now have a spin up full nodes as a service, where if you are a layer 1 or a layer 2 that you want to work with AWS, come and talk to us, because we can list your solution or your node, through our marketplace, where anyone who is building with AWS, if they are looking for nodes to build whatever their solution is, they will be able to find you within our marketplace. This is a really great offering where this is actually supporting the building of the Web3 industry, right? If you think about where we would be without layer 1 and layer 2s, not very far. And so when we get a lot of enterprises or big brands that are coming to us saying, hey, what chain should I build on? We direct them to this marketplace, and you as a builder, you'll be able to list your solution in this marketplace and be able to move forward with that. The last one here is just how do you create and maintain and scale your APIs? APIs drive the entire, not just Web3, but just tech industry in general. So we provide a secure and compliant way for you to do that. Awesome. So coming up on the last couple of slides, so what are some of the ways that we can help to support your Web3 startup? So one of the ways is through our credit program. So we have 2 credit programs. We have AWS Activate. We have another credit program, which is called AWS Lift. If you'd like to learn more about our AWS Lift program, feel free to visit our booth. The best way to describe it is, look, if you're going to be building with AWS, you might as well get rewarded for being part of the AWS ecosystem. So again, we do have a booth, we have a banner, we can share more about what that AWS Lift program. If you want to know about our Activate program, you can speak with me. So what are the startup programs that we have for our founders? So as I mentioned, we support our startups at all phases. So from the building phase to the POC phase to the go-to-market and scaling phase. Again, talk to me. Happy to help support your Web3 startup on your journey. I wanted to share this very quickly because as AWS, we do get to see the entire industry, not just from Web3, but also from the Web2 perspective. Wanted to share what were some of the trends that we're seeing happening in Web3. We're really excited about what that next bull market is going to be, what people are building today. And these are the trends that we're getting the most questions about, the most asked about, and the most collaborations with. Just wanted to share some of the Web3 native VCs that we work with. Remember, I spoke about earlier that our role is essentially to ensure that we're getting Web3 startups the liquidity they need, the funding they need. And so we work with all these startups through our Activate program. So how to get started? So I will say, reach out to us, reach out to our team. We have a startup team. We have our SMB team who is here today. The team there at the back, we have a booth. Come and visit us, and don't be shy to reach out. We do have some events, ethical smart contract hacking workshops, Web3 VC matching, pitch demos for Web3 startups. Again, reach out to us. We're happy to walk you through that. Thanks for your time.